is my review of the books I read in 2023. I read about half the amount of books that I typically read in a year because my girlfriend got me into Animal Crossings, and so I spent more time playing video games than reading this year, but I'm not mad about it. So, my two favorite books this year were Word Slut by Amanda Montell and Tiny Beautiful Things by Cheryl Strayed. The subtitle to Word Slut is A Feminist Guide to Taking Back the English Language, and that is exactly why I loved this book so much. As someone who loves language and etymology and why we speak in the way that we speak, I found this book to be extremely riveting and engaging, and it just, if you're someone who loves knowledge about words, this is a book that you will really love. Words are spells. So much of the language we use is what continues to entrap us in different gendered roles and how we think about sex and gender. So I think this is a really valuable book because if you have more knowledge about why we use certain terms in regards to sex and gender, then you can also take more control over the ways in which you speak and the ways in which you choose to frame sex and gender. Like, listen to this passage. The term penetration implies and reinforces the idea that sex is from the male perspective, like sex is defined as something a man does to a woman. The opposite might be envelopment or enclosure. Can you imagine how different life would be if that's how we referred to sex? If women were linguistically framed as the protagonists of any given sexual scenario? I love that. And then Tiny Beautiful Things, Advice on Love and Life from Dear Sugar. You've probably heard about this book. You may have read it already. It's basically an advice column, but written by a really incredible writer. So it's not just, it's full of advice on life, which, if you're alive, there's probably stuff in here that you would find helpful. I found it incredibly helpful to life scenarios I've gone through and am currently going through, but it's also through the lens of someone who is just an incredible writer with beautifully delicious writing. So again, if you just love like reading about life scenarios, experiences, and like getting someone's perspective on things that you are also going through or have gone through, but also with like just gorgeous wording, I highly recommend this book. Also want to give a special shout out to Hawk Mountain by Connor Habib. You may know Connor Habib from his podcast, Against the World with Connor Habib. That's where I know him from. You also may know him from various adult films. This is his first novel. It's a horror novel. It's gay. But the gayness is normal. Girl, just read this book if you like horror. And again, if you like incredible writing with riveting, engaging stories where you're like kind of terrified and on the edge of your seat, and also like, ooh, how did he do that? Like that little craft thing right there with that sentence and that prose. Like, oh my God, Hawk Mountain. And then The Book of Form and Emptiness by Ruth Ozeki, Bestiary by Ming Chang, and A Certain Hunger by Chelsea G. Summers. I would recommend all three of these as like beautiful, delicious fiction. Again, if you love language, if you love like really like the craft of writing, potentially you are a writer yourself, I would recommend any of these. I'm a big slut for well, in general, but also like just for like beautifully written words. Okay, these are exactly the types of books I'm always looking for. I'm always looking for new fiction that has incredible language and craft to it, and all of these are incredible. I'm a big fan of Ruth Ozeki. She also wrote A Tale for the Time Being, which you've probably heard about. I would say, to be honest, the Book of Form and Emptiness, it was a little long. There was some stuff that probably could have been cut, but overall, it was a great read. It really goes into the main character. He can hear objects talking, So you can only imagine like how fun and delightful and also like a little awful that is for this character. And it really goes into like kind of the spirituality of having things, of letting go of things. His mother is a hoarder. It's a really beautiful book. And then Bestiary, this is the first time I read K Ming Chang, and she is just incredible. Again, beautiful language. I see the way you wear your hands without worry, but someday they'll bury something. Someday this story will open like a switchblade. Your hands will plot their own holes, and when they do, I won't come and rescue you. This story, it's one of those that reads like a fairy tale. It includes, multiple generations, generational trauma. It is also gay, immigration stories. It's raw and very visceral, but also has that fairy tale like quality to it. It's such a good read. And then A Certain Hunger. Oh my god, A Certain Hunger. This is one of those books that I just saw on a table in the bookstore and bought on a whim, and I'm so glad I did. It follows a gourmet food critic who turns into a cannibal. Which, yeah, I mean, that may sound like obvious choices, but this book is so nuanced and unique and rich. So it has all the fun of like following, somewhat of a murder mystery, or if you love any like true crime, serial killer stuff. However, it is so decadent and so luxurious and oh, and has lots of sex. Lots of hot sex. I absolutely love the protagonist in this book, who is just like fucking and killing and eating. And the writing is just as decadent and luxurious to match. His mouth would explore the lemon and salt of my pussy. It would taste of multiple orgasms and poor judgment. The young man in question was long and creamy, a delight, a cream puff stuffed to bursting, with pointed sweetness and cum. Guys, to be honest, this is the kind of book that I wish I had written. Yeah, this is also Chelsea G. Summers' first book, so I'm really excited to see what she does next. And then real quick, I also want to touch on How You Get Famous. This book is not about it's not a how-to book, okay? It's, it follows 10 years of drag madness in Brooklyn, okay? So this journalist was just following a certain drag scene. It could have been any drag scene, but it was like, the Brooklyn drag scene. And then it has like beautiful reflections on kind of like what it's like to do drag. For me, since I am a drag king, I felt like this book gave me a lot of good intel about kind of like the history of drag. Like, I know my drag history, but this went further into exactly like how and why things have shifted over the past century in regards to drag, and it has given me a better understanding of and knowledge about like where and why we are at the place we are at with drag. So if you are a drag performer as well, or queer person or ally who is just interested in drag, I would recommend this as well. It is more journalistic. Like, I wouldn't say that the writing is always super beautiful or engaging. There are things that I probably would have edited out just because they're a little boring. But most of all, I think, overall, I think it's a fantastic read and very helpful if you are in this industry. Okay, guys, that was my review of books for 2023. Let me know if you have read any of these books as well, or if you're adding any of these to your reading list. Bye.